On Wednesday, House Democrats choose their leaders for the new Congress. And Nancy Pelosi, who's held the top job for 14 years, faces an unexpected challenge from a former supporter who says Democrats won't regain the majority with her in charge. Congressman Tim Ryan describes it as David versus Goliath. And Congressman, welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Great to be with you.
Let's begin with the strength of your party in the House. Let's put up some numbers. Back in 2009, after Barack Obama was elected president, Democrats held 257 seats to 178 for Republicans. But look at the swing. Next year, Democrats will have 194 seats to 238 for the GOP, with a couple of races still not closed. Congressman, how much is Nancy Pelosi to blame for that?
Well, I want to talk more about moving forward, but we lost a significant amount of seats in 2010. Didn't really do well in 14. Lost again, or didn't do well in 12. Lost again in 14, and we only picked up 6 seats the last time. In 2010, the Republicans ran $65 million worth of 160,000 ads tying our candidate to our leader.
To Pelosi.
To Pelosi, and that sank us. So the question is, how do we move forward? How do we?
Let me go back. What is it that you think makes her so unappetizing to voters?
Well, $65 million in Republican ads. I think our failure as a caucus has been not to focus on economic issues. I think we, and I'm supportive of all the issues that we talk about, but you need a robust economic message that covers everybody, and we've failed to do that, I think, consistently in the last 6 or 7 years.
We're going to get to your platform in a minute, but I want to talk about the state of the party, because I want to look at some other numbers about where House Democrats are from now in the country. And let's put this map up. More than 1/3 of the members in the new House, Democrats, come from just 3 states, California, New York, and Massachusetts. Almost 2/3 are from either the West Coast or the East Coast. Are Democrats no longer a national party? And if 2/3 of them come from those 2 coasts, isn't a San Francisco liberal like Nancy Pelosi a shoo-in to get reelected?
Well, I don't think so, because I think even our members from the coastal areas recognize that we are not a national party right now. We can't claim to be. And I think they recognize these are the smartest political figures coming out of their areas. They're the member of Congress. They've beaten mayors. They've beaten local elected officials to get this position. They're the most seasoned political figures in their region. They understand politics, and I think they understand that this is about having a new message and a new messenger and be able to reach those folks. And the numbers are big, but they know that if we don't get the middle of the country, that we're never going to be back in the majority.
Here's how Pelosi explained the election results about 10 days ago. Here she is.
The problem was more with the communication than it was with our policy. So our lives are dedicated to those very people who didn't communicate it, the successes we had.
Is it just a communication issue?
It's a big part of it, but we can't keep saying it's a communication issue. I mean, we've been saying it's a communication issue since 2010. So we've got to figure out how to have the robust economic message, and we're not communicating. These people left us in droves. They either went for Trump or they stayed at home. And without a good message that connects deeply with them, where we're talking about issues that they care about, that their family talks about when they're sitting at the kitchen table, they're never going to come back. And we need a leader who can go into those congressional districts and be able to pull Trump voters back and energize those voters we need to show up at the polls.
Let's drill down into that now. You say that you are proposing a platform that could reach out to a lot of the congressional districts that went for Donald Trump in the South, in the Rust Belt, in rural areas. What is it?
Well, one example, manufacturing. We have not had a robust manufacturing platform. Now, Steny Hoyer has a Make It in America plan. I think we need to put that.
Steny Hoyer, the number 2 Democrat
guy. We need to put that front and center about how we resuscitate manufacturing. And we need to have the discussions about what's the tax code have to look like, what are the investments we have to make, what's the next generation of advanced manufacturing look like, additive manufacturing, which is the 3D
Well, I want to get
type.
a little bit into that, because I've been going out with politicians since 1980. Ronald Reagan, who went to steel factories in Pittsburgh and said, we're going to bring these back. we're not going to bring them back, and we haven't for 36 years.
That's not what I'm saying. I think there's...
So what are you saying?
I'm glad you asked me. Okay. The low-end manufacturing, we're never going to get back. I think we're lying to our constituents if we say that everything that went to China somehow is going to automatically come back if we just wave a magic wand or just have the right policies. But I'll give you an example. We have a new $1 billion steel mill in Youngstown that's making steel pipes, steel tubing. That's an opportunity for us with some more high-end advanced manufacturing, the stuff that really takes a lot in aerospace. I think the clean energy economy is a boom, and I don't think Democrats ever quite talked about clean energy as a way to resuscitate manufacturing. If you look at a windmill, Chris, 8,000 component parts, gear shifts, hydraulics. There's a mile of concrete, a sidewalk mile of concrete in a wind turbine. These are things that we make in places like Youngstown, Gary, Indiana, Milwaukee. So if we're going to resuscitate manufacturing, a strong move to a clean energy economy is not just good for the environment, but it's good for places like the ones I represent to bring those jobs back.
But give Nancy Pelosi her due. She's a master fundraiser. She has been extraordinary in keeping the House Democratic caucus unified. Let's talk about Tim Ryan, because critics say that you've been in Congress 14 years and you haven't left much of a legislative mark. They say, in fact, that the two biggest issues you pushed are, one, that you host meditation sessions every week on Capitol Hill, and then you got some federal money to teach, quote, mindfulness to students in your district. I mean, it's not much of a legislative record for 14 years, sir.
Well, I sit on the Appropriations Committee, and let me say first and foremost, I think that the Capitol could use a little mindfulness. I think we could all turn the dial down a little bit and start talking to each other like human beings. Maybe we would be able to get stuff done. And I think it's important that we have a mindset that keeps us aware and focused on the issues at hand, as opposed to getting tossed around.
But you think that's going to win Trump voters? He's the meditation guy?
Well, I think it's a part of an innovation in education. I mean, if you look at social and emotional learning, which I got the money from, they just did a meta-analysis a few months ago of 300,000 kids who are participating in social and emotional learning in the schools. 11 percentile point increase in test scores closes the achievement gap. 10% increase in good behavior, 10% decrease in antisocial behavior, 20% swing in the mood of the schools. So we need to start approaching our education system in an innovative way. These are the kind of things I'm trying to push and promote because they work. And I think we can sit here and have the same old fights we've been having for 30 years, or we can take issues like social and emotional learning, for example, in our schools that are based on the latest brain science and close the achievement gap. That's where we should be talking. But let me talk about my experience real quick. I've been in Congress 14 years. I've been on the Appropriations Committee, in which we are in charge of trying to move legislation. I sit on the Defense Appropriations Committee. I've sat on the Armed Services Committee. I've sat on the Education Committee. I've sat on the Labor Health Committee, Transportation and Housing Committee. I've been involved in the appropriations process. I sat at the heels of Dave Obey. I was quiet. I listened. I watched. We did the Affordable Care Act. We did the Recovery Act. We did the auto rescue. I learned a lot, and I'm ready to put that knowledge now to work for the entire caucus.
Now, the conventional wisdom is maybe you're trying to build your profile, maybe you're going to run for governor in 2 years, but you don't have a chance of beating Nancy Pelosi on Wednesday. In fact, she says 2/3 of the caucus has already signed up to vote for it.
Those aren't the numbers we have. There's a lot of consternation in our caucus right now, and we're making a hell of a run at this thing, and I think we have a shot to win. I've been making calls for the last 3 or 4 days. People have been home with their families over Thanksgiving, and people are saying, look, this has been a change election. We want change. And there are a lot of members of Congress who now are understanding that we need to make a change. We can't keep running the same plays, Chris. We're not winning, and winners win, and we need to put leaders in place that are going to give us an opportunity to win the House back. We're down 60-some seats since 2010. We have the smallest number in our caucus since 1929. We got to do something differently.
Congressman Ryan, thank you. Thanks for coming in, and we'll be watching how House Democrats vote on Wednesday.
Thanks for having me.